Good day, everyone. So today we are going to be talking about time management tips, techniques, and tools. By the way, I am Kathleen Angles, and I'm the creator of RinAissance, your reliable resource and information assistant. So, time management is very important for professionals like us. No matter what you are doing, what you are up to these days. Especially those who have a lot on their plate, time management is a very it's a very essential part of our survival, if we must say. To start, imagine having this magic bank account. Every 12 midnight, you get 86,400 US dollars. That's a lot of money, right? But by 11:59 p.m. every night, the account goes back to zero. So it's up to you how you will spend that money within that day. But no matter what you do, no matter what tricks you try, it goes back to zero every night. So that's money. That's time for us. Time works the same way. We are given, if we are lucky, we are given 86,400 seconds every day. But what if every second of our life can actually be converted to cash? Time is gold is an old saying, but this phrase did not pass the test of time for nothing. But the thing is, unlike cash, we are all given the same amount of time per day, no matter who we are, what we do, but not all of us place the same value to time. So how do we spend each moment of our day wisely then? So of course, time management, that is. So I'll be sharing tips that I use or do for me to be able to squeeze in everything that I have to squeeze in the very limited 86,400 seconds of my day. So the first tip is to do a time audit. So it's very important for us to ask, how do we actually make use of our time? How are we actually spending it second per second? While for some people this might be like kind of it's too much to do, but actually, if as they say, if you cannot measure something, it would be hard for you to improve it. So that the same goes for time management. So there is this concept called planning fallacy, wherein we overestimate the time that it will take us to complete a short task, while we also tend to underestimate the time that we need to complete big projects. So planning fallacy is related to time management in a sense that it gives us it sort of messes up with our idea or sense of time. So in planning fallacy, I tell you, is a very it's tricky, and most of the time, if you're not very mindful of this, you will be lagging on a lot of deadlines. So how can we avoid planning fallacy? Based on my experience, this can be avoided by keeping track of how we actually spend our time. When we become mindful of how much time we dedicate to certain tasks, it becomes easier for us to have a more realistic estimate of how the other task or the next tasks are going to take. It's like benchmarking, so there. If you see the triangle, the triangle of dilemma, if I may call it, according to this triangle, you may only choose two if you want to have a realistic life. So you can either choose work or your career, or relationship, your family, your love life, your romantic relationships, friends, or you can choose health or sleep. So according to this triangle, it's impossible to have them all three. So do you agree with that? But in fact, people do not just they try to challenge themselves, myself included. We don't believe in this triangle dilemma. Instead, we try to squeeze in everything that we can. We meet our friends. We have, like in my case, I'm a teacher, so I work, I have a class, I'm taking my master's, I have my husband, work, family, everything. I try to squeeze in everything, but there always I always find myself like just having everything slip apart. So in the end, I just I end up wanting to just give up on the things that I need to finish. So so that's also not good. We have to know what our priorities are. So, according to Butler B, in an article he wrote in 2016, actually there are many things that you can squeeze in your time, in your day, but you have to choose wisely on how you can, on which to prioritize. So this is and then this is what I learned. So you have to choose your battles. You have to know, you have to decide what is important to you, what your current goals are, and you have to drop everything that doesn't align with it. So there. So tip number 2 is to plan ahead. So you have to set goals, prioritize, and create a to-do list. So here's where here's when your pen and paper or maybe your journal will come in handy. Maybe your technologies too. So for starters, you have to set a goal. What do you really want to achieve? Like, what do you want to be, say, in after a year or maybe in 5 years? Because this will identify what you should squeeze in, your non-negotiables when you try to manage your time. In that case, given that, in this light, it will be easier for you to do your commitment inventory. So you can do commitment inventory by listing down everything, like creating an exhaustive list of everything that you do on a regular basis, on a daily basis, and then you also try to compare it with your goals. And then are you actually spending your day wisely, according to your goals? So with this in mind, you have to trim your commitment, because for sure there are things in your list that do not align with what you want to be, like say in a year or in 5 years. So here's where the choosing your battles will come. And then you have to organize your to-do list in categories. So this is what I do. I believe commitment inventory, according to todoist.com, is usually coupled with another productivity tool, which is the time blocking productivity tool. So now that you have your to-do list organized in categories, can be like, maybe you can say one category be work, another category would be like enriching your relationship, because that is important. Your personal life is also important. Maybe you can allot time for the things that your essentials, hygiene, sleep, rest, exercise. And what else? Your other passion, your hobbies, your side gigs. So maybe you can also create a category for that. So now that you have a big task, you have these categories, you can start creating your checklist and trimming down and removing the tasks that do not really align with these categories. This way, you become more committed to certain categories only, and it would be easier for you to say no to things that do not align with that. And then lastly, when you are in the zone, when you decide that, okay, I'll be spending this time block only to do this thing, this is where your time bursts can come in. The idea of time burst is like you imagine that you are tight you only have 2 minutes to check your email, but you know that you have like 5 emails to check. It will be easier. You'll be more focused on checking all these 5 emails because you know you have a time limit. So that's where the time bursts is going to come in. So you can also use, this is very important, this is a very useful tool for me as well, the prioritization tool by Heisenhower. So actually this is popularized by Stephen Covey in the 7 Habits of Highly Effective People. I have a book, I have that book in my shelf now. But in what this matrix says is that you have to classify your tasks according to two things: either they are urgent and important. So with that, you will come up with a matrix with 4 grids. So one quadrant will be about for urgent and important things, such as the crisis, maybe your work, especially those that are deadline driven. There's also quadrant 2, wherein which is not urgent. They don't seem urgent. They're just there, but regardless of that, it's important. And if you let go, if you don't spend time on quadrant 2, maybe your life will fall apart after some time, because quadrant 2, included in quadrant 2, are your relationship building, planning for the future, long-term planning, working on things before they become a crisis. Something like that. Self-improvement would be in quadrant 2 as well. There's also quadrant 3, and many of us, like myself included, have a tendency to be like sunk, to give a lot of time in quadrant 3. So what are quadrant 3? These are activities that are urgent. They are activities that pose certain level of urgency. You have to do this now. But actually, if you think about it, are they important, or can you delegate them? Can someone else do it for you? Because after all, that is their job and not yours. So these tasks will fall under quadrant 3. And then lastly, there are the so-called time wasters. So these are things that you may enjoy doing, but like binge watching on Netflix, I like doing that too. But for sure that if you spend too much of your time on quadrant 4, the things that are not urgent and not important, you will be compromising your other quadrant. So I think this guide will also be very helpful for you to classify which one to prioritize and which one to leave for that moment when you can actually have a break. Like when you're on vacation, please do not work. Do your quadrant 2 and your quadrant 4, because you deserve it, right? So there. Tip number 3, do not multitask. So I'm very guilty with this tip because I do not do it. I feel like I am more productive when I'm trying to multitask. But the truth is, when you try to multitask, you only compromise the quality. And you, like in my case, my personal experience, I mess up big time when I multitask because I forget things that are more important. I lose my focus. So according to Mrs. D's Corner, I saw this post on Facebook. Note to self: when things feel overwhelming, remember, one thought at a time, one task at a time, and one day at a time. So when we feel that we are already caught in the whirlpool of multitasking, everything that you need to do, we always have to remember to take things easier by doing things one thing at a time. So trust me, you'll be more productive, you'll be more focused, and you'll be more efficient when you do it that way. So there. So how do we actually so in my case, how do I actually manage my time? So I organize my tasks first. I've been keeping a bullet journal or a simple journal since I can remember, I think, since I was in college. And it really helped me accomplish more because I get to see, I get a visual of what I need to finish. And then it's also important that we utilize time blocking. So by that, we mean we only do one thing at a time. What is in that time block? So that's the only thing that you have to be working on. And then lastly, to establish our routine. So definitely, if you keep trying and trying, time management is a skill. And just like with any skill, skills they become better when you practice, the more you practice them. So eventually you'll be able to establish your routine. So there are many other, so I don't know. Okay, so just to share with you, so there. Okay. So there, time blocking is another powerful tool, as mentioned earlier, that you can use. This enables you to do just one thing, to be reminded of things that you have to do at at any given time. This makes you more productive in a sense that you do not get distracted by things that you are not supposed to do only because it's on your desk. So when you know that you will be working on it, it's just not this time because another task is scheduled for that particular time. You become more focused, your outputs become better, and you really achieve more things when you try to time block. So just to share with you, this is my pandemic schedule. So other people would find it with many people. Many people complained about having nothing to do during the pandemic, but I tell you, I was busier than I was before the pandemic. So I utilize a lot of time blocking because I am taking my master's degree. So I really calculated, try to record everything. And if you look at it, it gets better, right? So this is the first week that I try to do time blocking, and then the second time it got better. See, the yellow ones are are closer to one another. The same goes for this one. It gets neater the more you do it. And also, it took me. This was 21-day habit that I was able to develop. So with practice, everything eventually becomes a habit. So there. Tip number 4 is to block out distractions. So, like in my case, I am so guilty about being distracted all the time. So if you really want to, if you really are struggling about time, not being able to block distraction, there are a few applications that you can use to be more in the zone, to avoid being distracted. So in my case, what I do is I first identify time wasters. Like there are certain apps, for example, when I feel like checking my Facebook, that used to be a very big time waster for me. Like if I'm not very mindful, I'd be spending 30 to an hour just scrolling nonstop on Facebook. So I identified that was a time waster. So when I figured that it's not helping me, I was able to block that. But of course, it didn't come so easily. I needed an app blocker like being shown on the screen. So what else can you do? You have to keep on evaluating your week. So you have to do the quadrant 4 of time management every week. You have to tell yourself, I should stop doing this time waster. And then eventually you can also mute notification if you can't help it. You throw your phone, you put your phone in another room so you won't hear it. You can also disable apps that cause distraction. You can communicate your schedule with your family. You can, of course, there are times your family would like to talk to you, so they would just barge in your room, even if you have your own room. But you have to tell them that if I don't get out of this room, especially if my door is locked, please do not disturb me, because I am working on something. So, but that doesn't mean that you will not be talking to them. You have to also set a time for them, and wherein you will not be working. You will just be spending time with them. So what else? For visual learners like myself, I print out a schedule and post it where I can easily see it. So it's here. So what else? You can also use a focus timer or the Pomodoro app. So this is there are a lot of Pomodoro apps on App Store or Play Store that you can download. So the Pomodoro technique works like this: you choose a task, just one task or one nature of task, like time block, and you allocate 30 minutes there. By the 30 minutes, you will have to break down to 25 intervals. So for 25 minutes, you will set your timer, and you will do focused work. You will not be doing anything. You will not be checking your email if you're not meant to check your email. You will not be doing anything except for the thing that you're doing. I like seeing how much time I need to stay focused. That way I get reminded that, oh, you shouldn't be doing anything yet. It's not 25 minutes, it's not yet up. But after the 25 minutes, you have to make sure that you take 5 minutes of short break, because you will not be able to sustain your focus if you keep working nonstop. So there. And then when you do time blocking, you identify how many pomodoros you need per block. So if you say you allocate 3 hours only for working on that particular project, you have to allocate 6 pomodoros on that task, and you won't stop until you finish that 6 pomodoros. So there. Tip number 5. Now that you feel that you're working well and you are achieving a lot of things, you always have to reward yourself for accomplishing your tasks. This way, you attribute the good feeling of accomplishing things with reward. That's how the minds of people work. When you get rewarded for doing something, you become more motivated to do it again next time. So you have to make sure that you reward yourself, but not the other way around. So there was a time when I would reward myself first and then accomplish my task. It doesn't work like that. You really have to you have to be determined to do it. You work first, and then you reward yourself afterwards. So, and then, so after doing a great job, this is where you can do your quadrant 4 things, if that makes you like your hobbies. You also have to and then, so that when you spend time with your loved ones, you become less guilty. You don't think about your work because you know that you've already finished them. So you also have to make sure that you have some me time, so alone time, or maybe you can spend it in learning new things, or getting a new hobby. So there. Tip number 6, create balance. So you have to allot time, as mentioned, as I keep mentioning, you have to allot time for your quadrant 2. You can't always just work. So this is actually a personal note to myself, because I tend to be workaholic. I tend to really try to achieve my objectives before I give time to myself, to my family. But yeah, because eventually your life will fall apart if you just do one thing. You have to put first things first. And actually, if you think about it, why are we working? We are working because we want to provide better for our family, because we want our children, our loved ones, to have a better life. And if that is the case, we shouldn't be forgetting that to spend time with them as well, because it's going to be pointless if you just give them material things and not our precious time. So in anything, draw motivation from what matters to you most. You have to let your time, your will, your desire to manage your time well, draw it from your loved ones, the things that matter to you the most. So here are my references if you're interested to learn more about time management. Thank you so much, and I hope to see you in our next video. Bye.